Did you know that Starbucks just appointed a new Indian CEO? His name is Lakshman, and that makes it like now we have so many Indian CEOs of multinational companies. Let me name some of them. Sundar Pichai, who's the CEO of Google, Satya Nadella, who's the CEO of Microsoft, Indra Nooyi, who's the CEO of Pepsi, Parag Agarwal, who's the CEO of Twitter, and so on and on and on. There's so many CEOs. When I was researching, I was like, oh, maybe, it'll be interesting to kind of dig deeper into an immigration journey of my favorite CEO in this list, which is Sundar Pichai. I wanted to kind of check it out. So here's the interesting fact. Sundar Pichai came to United States in 1993 to do his master's in Stanford. So he probably came on F1 visa just like us. Just like me. And then he completed assuming master's in 2 years, and then he worked for McKinsey for almost 9 years before he joined Google, which was 2004. So he worked for McKinsey for almost 9 years or so. So timeline wise, 1995 to 2004, that's where he worked in McKinsey. I'm assuming at some point he moved from H1B to green card, or he applied at least during that time frame. And crazy fact I found out is that if you were to apply your green card, employer-based green card during that time frame from 1995 to before 2000, your green card would have easily come within 2 to 5 years. It's crazy because now fast forward to 2022, or if you're watching in 2023, it's almost going to take more than a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, 4 decades. Like timeline is waiting and waiting. I do want to caveat that it's not same for marriage-based green card or family-based green card. That's a different timeline, but employer-based green card are taking forever. So that got me thinking that how many Sundar Pichais we actually have right now, and they can't become an actual or a real Sundar Pichai or a CEO or an entrepreneur or a creator, or they can do much things because of the walls of immigration system. That's a real problem we are dealing with, and everybody's talked about it. In this video, I'm going to talk about what are some of the ways you can actually become creative and creative ways to solve this problem within the wall of immigration system, which you can actually do right now and right away. So let's get started. Before I go to the next part, here's a disclaimer that I'm not an immigration lawyer. This is not an immigration advice. You need to consult an immigration lawyer for any of the solutions I'm going to give you or the ideas I'm going to give you, because I'm just sharing my opinion and ideas with you. You can explore any of the idea which you like in this video. And there's probably more ways to solve this problem. I'm going to talk about the 4 ways which I know, or at least I personally know someone who's used this ways. All right, let's start with number 1. Number 1 is H1B visa. If you are on H1B visa and you are probably wondering like, hey, can I start a company on H1B visa? Answer is yes, you can start a company on H1B visa. So until 2010, there was no guidance whether you can start a business or you cannot start a business. And at some point, they made a decision that yes, you can start a business, but there are few rules which you need to follow. And here are the rules. Number 1, if you start a company, you should be able to be fired from your own company. Yes, if you own the company, doesn't mean that you cannot get fired. You should be able to be fired from your own company. Number 2 is you cannot be the sole proprietor of the company. Number 3 is you cannot just create the company because you want to file your own H1B through that company. So it has to be a legitimate business or a company which is solving a problem. Number 4 is your company should have a business plan that includes hiring American workers. I also want to caution you again, consult immigration lawyer for when you start this process, but there are few things you can do and there are few things you cannot do as a CEO of the company. And here's number 1, you can build a business model. Number 2 is incorporate and register a company. Yes, you can register a company on your name. Number 3 is you can create a board of directors where people can help you run the company. Number 4 is you can vote as a shareholder. Number 5 is you can hold equity on the company. And number 6 is you can do the market research on the product you are building. And here are the things you cannot do. You cannot do any kind of management or operations of the company. You cannot be coding, you cannot be managing people, you cannot do like operations, day-to-day operations in the company. You cannot hire or fire the people in your own company. Yes. So basically you can start the company with a partnership with someone who has a green card or who's a citizen, and hopefully they can run the company based on the business model you have created. And hopefully if the company does well, then you can get H1B sponsor from your own company. Yes, that's possible, as long as you can satisfy the employer-employee relationship, and obviously having the board of directors who can fire you. So basically you need to be treated as an employee of the company versus a CEO of the company, even though it's your company, your idea, but you can do it. There are ways you can work with this. Again, consult an immigration lawyer for this advice. Also, I'm actually making a detailed video on what you can do and cannot do on H1B visa with an immigration lawyer. So watch out for that. It's coming out this Saturday. So I would highly recommend you to go and subscribe to the podcast channel. It's going to be mind-blowing and a lot of fun information in that video. Let's move on to the second solution, which is O1 visas. O1 visas are becoming more and more popular, and you might have heard it, you might not have heard it. I have actually a video on the channel itself, link in the description, go check it out. But O1 visa was introduced during the Bush, when he was a president during that administration, and they said like, okay, let's put a cap on H1B visa so people don't exploit it. That's why there's a cap. But let's also give an opportunity for people who have extraordinary abilities, and we do want to have those people in our country, so then they can bring the talent. And that's when O1 visa was born. There are two categories, O1A and O1B. O1A is mainly for business, like a founder, researcher, software engineer, science, technology, more of that. And O1B is more like an artist type visa, with creative visa, which is like singer, dancer, actor, theater artist, maybe UX UI designer as well. So there's two different paths for two different categories. And let me kind of quickly give you like a difference between O1 visa and H1B visa. O1 visa does not have a cap like H1B. There's a cap that there's only 85,000 visas allotted per year. In O1, there's no cap, so n number of visa can be allotted. O1 visa timeline, you can apply any time of the year, versus H1B, you have to apply before April 1st. That's when the lottery gets drawn. Salary requirements. In O1 visa, you don't need to worry about the salary meeting the minimum salary. In fact, you cannot also have a salary. In H1B visa, you have to meet the minimum salary requirement, minimum wage requirement according to the US Department of Labor, I think. And the best part, O1 visa can be extended n number of times after your first 3 years. You can keep on extending it, versus H1B, you have first H1B and then you can extend it for 3 years, and then you can only extend it if your green card is in process. Now you might be wondering, okay Yuri, this is great, how can I apply for O1 visa? Here, let me tell you, there are like 8 kind of pillars of O1 visa, or 8 kind of judging criteria for people to kind of see, okay, if these are the 8 qualities you meet, then we can consider you for O1 visa. And this is also where your immigration lawyer will play a big role, because they will evaluate your profile and tell you like, yeah, you should be able to apply for O1 visa. I'm actually making a detailed podcast video on O1 visa, someone who got their H1B visa rejected for 3 times and then they applied for O1 visa. They got their O1 visa. He's a software engineer. Subscribe to the podcast channel. We're going to talk about that in podcast video. All right, here are the 8 categories or 8 pillars. Original contribution, critical capacity, judging, press, scholarly articles, high salary, national or international recognition, membership. Sorry, when I was editing this video, I wanted to make sure that I'm very clear that there are 8 different categories or 8 different ways they judge you, or 8 different pillars which I went through, and you have to match either 3 or 4. The more you match, the more chances you have to get the O1 visa, but you have to minimum at least match 3 or 4. But obviously all of those details should be clarified with your lawyer, and he will tell you you exactly what you need to do. So make sure you do that. I just went through the 8 list, and obviously I gave you very like high level, just the bullet point. There are details of each point. I'll cover it in separate video. But let's say if you really want to know about this, my friend Soundarya, I think I've done many videos with her in the past. She's writing a book. She's co-writing a book with an immigration lawyer on this very topic and many more topics like on immigration, what you can do and cannot do on H1B, O1 visa, EB1 visa, how can you start the company. It's going to be a step-by-step guide for immigrants who are kind of feel like they are stuck and how can they be unstuck. They are actually launching their campaign, link in the description. I would highly recommend you to go check it out, and if you actually order the book right now, you will get the first chapter of O1 visa, which I just showed you like some of the snippets. That's from her book. You'll actually get to read that chapter before anyone else get to read it. They're also having a community where they're gonna do like a weekly calls and office hours with lawyer, etc. So link in the description. They are launching the campaign. The campaign, obviously when you're watching, the campaign is live, so I would highly recommend you to go check it out. Also, I've made a detailed video on O1 visa with a lawyer, link in the description, that as well. You want to watch that before you read the book, more than welcome. Okay, let's talk about F1 visa. If you are on F1 visa or on OPT and you're like, I really have this strong startup idea and I want to explore the entrepreneurship world, how can you do it? There are ways for you as well. There's something called Global Entrepreneurship in Residence Program, GEIR, or globaldetroit.com. These programs are meant for you to become an entrepreneur. How does that work? Let me tell you step by step. Number one, go to that website, link in the description, and after that you register your idea that, hey, here's my startup idea, here's what I want to work on. Number two is that your idea gets selected. After your idea gets selected, they're gonna pair you up with a university who actually have this program. Once you get paired up with the university, you are hired on CAP exempt H1B visa, which is awesome because they have paired you up with the university and basically you are hired as a H1B CAP exempt. You kind of get to teach entrepreneurship or mentor students for 5 to 10 hours, and then rest 30 hours you get to work on your startup idea. And that is a super cool way to get into entrepreneurship. Let me know in the comments if you want me to make more detailed video about this. Last but not least is H4 EAD. Let's say if you're on H1B visa and you get married, your wife or your husband basically gets a dependent visa, which is H4 visa. When you start to apply for green card and you are on the certain stage of the green card, it doesn't have to be approved, but you have to pass certain stage of the green card, then your wife or your husband can apply for H4 EAD, which is basically employment authorization. And if that authorization gets approved, you can pretty much do whatever you want to do. You can even start a company or a business on H4 EAD. The only problem is it's very time consuming, and also there's a condition that H1B visa, your husband or your wife has to be in certain stage of applying for green card or in the green card. And two, the H4 EAD are taking long time, so it can take anywhere from 6 months to 2 years, and because it's time consuming, a lot of people don't explore it. But I would highly recommend to explore this if you really want to become an entrepreneur, or not necessarily just entrepreneur or start a company. You can even do more things on H4 EAD. I know I told you that there is a bonus one, which is EB1A visa, which is Einstein visa, extraordinary ability visa. I've actually made 2 or 3 detailed videos on my channel, link in the description, go check it out. There's also something called EB5 visa, which is an investment visa. You can invest into a company or a business and you can get a EB5 visa. Basically, you can become creative within the wall of immigration which has been created and not wait for the immigration system to change. So I would like you to explore those paths. And if you want to explore, like I said, my friend is co-authoring a book called Unshackled with an immigration lawyer. There's going to be so many more details which I probably didn't cover in this video. You will find out a link in the description. Also check out all the videos which I have mentioned throughout the video, podcast channel where we're going to do more detailed stuff about this as well. Subscribe to all of that. I will see you guys in the next one. Until then, keep smiling and keep hustling. You gotta hustle every single day.